Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
Hey, come on in. Congratulations, by the way, for Season 10 of Smallville. Huge accomplishment.
I can't believe that we've made it this far.
Yes, I can't believe it either. But anyway, you have a few ideas for us in terms of what the last season is going to be. Obviously, it's going to end with Clark as Superman, but I'm interested to hear what's going to happen before that happens.
All right. So, Martian Manhunter's third girlfriend's cousin's sister comes into play, and then we've got Jimmy Olsen's, the fifth time he ever went to the coffee shop and talked to that girl once. She's showing up. And then Plastic Man's ankle will be in there for a frame. And then after that, we're going to have not Hawkman, but Hawkman, because we've already done 12 Hawkmans already. So we're going to do Hawkman's cousins, girlfriends, brothers, cousins, second, twice removed, aunt's foot.
Okay, I just have one problem with this.
We've done it all. We're out of ideas. This is all we've got.
It's okay. And I just have one problem with this. Could we make it Plastic Man's shoulder instead of his ankle?
Oh, I haven't even thought about that. Okay, maybe. Yeah, shoulder. Sure, I like that.
Perfect.
The left or the right, or both?
It's up to you.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll shoot both for coverage.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, everything else sounds great, and we're going to see Tom Welling in the Superman suit, right? He's going to be in the suit.
Oh, we've done everything but that.
Right, but 10 seasons, that's what most people would want to see.
How about we, instead of that, because that's entirely too difficult for us, we're going to actually have Beast Boy's left pinky toe, 12th cousin. The toe has different cousins than the other toes.
Okay, wait a minute. So you're saying this is not going to happen? The Superman suit's not going to be in the finale?
Well, Tom doesn't like it.
Can't you just, I don't know. We're going to want to see Superman. Can you just animate him in with some CG or something?
Don't you think they'd rather see Booster Gold's helmet than Tom Welling in the Superman suit? I mean, really. Us Hollywood producers are connected to the youth.
If you say so. I'm just saying, like, it would be a huge letdown if he's not in that suit. I would really reconsider that. Otherwise...
What do you know? You don't know anything.
Well, I mean,
I brought this show to 10 seasons. I've written everybody's second cousins, third, twice removed. Every hero in the DC universe has shown up in Smallville.
I'm just saying that means you also have the budget to just have a Superman suit. We can just have you borrow Brandon's from Superman Returns. It's not going to be that difficult. He's probably the same dimensions as Tom.
We don't know that. I'd rather get another shoulder in there from Plastic Man.
Okay, well, I'll approve that because I'm a big Plastic Man fan, and I actually secretly have a thing for shoulders, but anyways.
You and that spider guy should talk.
So, anyway, well, if that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. I'm just saying, like, people are going to want to see Superman. just CG him in there if Tom doesn't want to wear it. I'm sure fans will be fine. They probably won't be able to tell the difference anyway.
Are you telling me right now that your people should talk to my people? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm just saying to consider Superman for the finale.
Oh, God. I guess I'll think about it.
You obviously have this final season, so, make it the best that you can.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
I still want that toenail in there, though.
Sure. Well, you can have the toenail. We'll give you the budget for
Second cousins, third, twice removed, all that. All the family of everybody showing up.
You
okay?
got it. Thank you very much. Okay, Christy, call up Greg Berlanti. We're not going to have that other guy run any more DC shows from now on. This is ridiculous. And welcome to the planet. See what I did there?
Woo!
We are here at Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and we are both now in black Superman shirts. I finally got one right here, Man of Steel style. And this is Ben, and Andrew already has his on.
We're here, everybody. The third and maybe final installment. We'll see how this goes.
I think it will be. So, if you're not familiar with what we've been doing here at Superhero Stuff You Should Know, we've basically been going through Man of Steel, doing a little bit of a deep dive in terms of little comic book connections and behind-the-scenes anecdotes, but mainly saying, hey, here's something that Snyder was criticized for in the movie. Do we agree with Snyder on his choice here, or do we agree with the critics, since this is probably, not probably, but this is the most controversial Superman movie of all time, so far, I'd say. So
yeah, somehow more controversial than the Richard Pryor one. What was that, 3?
Which we still haven't
4?
seen.
I forget which one that is.
This is 3, yeah.
Okay.
Superman 3 is
3.
Richard Pryor. So we left off, the last score was Snyder 1, critics 4. So Snyder has an opportunity to catch up this time. We'll see.
I'm surprised he was that close. So wait, critics 4, Snyder 3, you said?
Snyder 1.
Snyder 1. Oh, okay.
It's close.
Okay.
But Snyder has an opportunity with a redemption round this time. We'll see what happens.
The score reflects us not liking Snyder, but that's just not the case. I still like Snyder okay. It's just don't like every single thing he does.
We are specifically going into the criticisms that people have said, so that's where we are examining, where we're saying we agree with the critics in this part and agree with Snyder in this part. Right now it seems like we side a little bit more towards the critics, but that doesn't mean that we don't appreciate this movie. Again, we kind of lie in between when it comes to, we're not full-on Snyder stans, but we're not haters either. We pretty much are very much in between, like we are with everybody else.
Can I just tell you, I'm 36 as of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get it in my heart to say Stan. I'm just not. You're a couple years younger than me, so it's natural for you. But I stopped. I stopped at some point with the new slang. I just can't. It's not natural. Doesn't roll off the tongue for me. I know it's an Eminem song. It rhymes with fan. I get it, but I just.
If anything, it's a fan who is so obsessed that he locks his wife in the trunk of the car and goes over into the water. So if we're gonna go off the Eminem song, probably not the best thing to be called, but I don't know.
That one and She's So Extra, that whole extra thing and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing it off the rails already. But real quick, my wife is not a native English speaker. She's Japanese. And
you have to explain a lot then.
Yeah. And so she well, that too, but no, that's what I'm saying though. She explains shit to me because she's an Instagramaholic. And she's always learning new slang from Instagram, and she goes on at her work. She hears a bunch of stuff too, and she's the one that told me about extra and all that shit. And I'm like, she just makes fun of me. She's like, "You're a native speaker, aren't you?" Yeah, but I'm 36, dude. This is over. I'm not that old, but I'm I turned 37 this year, and it's just it's over. I'm done with new slang. I think.
Okay.
I had my time.
It's not something that I would call myself, but
yeah.
I would call other people that.
Yeah.
On it. So
you're a Batman stan.
Your words, not mine.
That's a good fucking. You flipped it back on me. I like that.
So you do say it. You did say it.
Well, in that context, yes.
Yes. Okay. So before we get into it, a quick corrections department on myself. I said that there was a post by Australian filmmaker Ryan Unicomb about the Kryptonian armor that he deleted. Turns out I found it. It wasn't actually deleted. I just couldn't find it the first time that we recorded. But I wanted to get the full story on this idea that potentially Man of Steel was going to have Kal-El in Kryptonian armor for most of the movie.
Okay.
He brings up, so a few little tidbits here. He brings up that we see Lara loading it into a pod before Krypton explodes in the final cut, which we kind of do. She kind of says goodbye to Jor-El's armor, and it closes. This pod sort of thing closes on it, and then we cut to Lara sort of going off to the view before it blows up. So it could be interpreted as it being a pod that takes off that Kal-El will later find in the movie, or it could just be her saying goodbye to Jor-El, as most of us probably interpreted in there. But it is interesting that the seeds of that are in there. According to him, the armor would be ripped from Kal until just the undergarment remained, which would be all he would have left on after defeating Zod. So apparently we wouldn't even see him in the Superman cape and costume, quote unquote, undergarment until the very end, like post neck snap. It seems
Post neck snap.
Yeah.
Wow.
It says after defeating Zod. And Ryan says, quote, he emerges from a church to sporadic fanfare at saving the day, his first full reveal as the Superman before exploding into the sky. It also would have fit nicely with Zod's armor shedding on a farm scene too. I feel so.
I don't like that. I mean, I don't like the pacing. I'd like for it to be like first fight with Zod, and he gets his ass kicked.
Or Smallville.
Yeah, in Smallville, that happens there, and then the rest of the movie we have the suit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like,
Yeah,
am I wearing my underwear? What's
extreme.
going on here?
Yeah, it's
You
a
know
little
what I mean?
extreme to be like, you don't get the full reveal of the actual superhero costume until the very end.
It starts to feel like a guy that's not a fan of Superman made a Superman movie. That's what that feels like.
I agree. I think something in between, because I love the idea of him showing up in the first battle against Zod with the thing on. Like maybe he gets captured by Zod, and then when he saves Lois and he's about to save his mom in Smallville, he shows up in the armor. And then during the fight with Faora and Namek, which is what we're going to get into for today, it just gets torn away from him because Namek is a fucking monster, and so is Faora, and that's how he's like, by the end of the Smallville fight, he's now in this traditional Superman suit. So I think that's awesome. Let's see. I also forgot to mention, we talk about all the different characters that other people have played in the comic book universe. I completely forgot on first recording that I might mispronounce this. Ayet Zur, the actress who plays Lara, is also Vanessa in Daredevil seasons 1 and 3.
That's right. Yes,
I completely forgot about that. But yeah, completely different side to her. But I think she's underutilized. It feels in a lot of these because she seems great in both roles. So
yeah, she's not in much. It seems like, but maybe I'm wrong, like Pfeiffer, like I was with Pfeiffer.
She's not much that we've seen. I'd say. Yeah. Okay, so picking back off, we left off with the random priest scene in Man of Steel, and now Superman arrives. His first appearance to the world publicly is at this military base where he turns himself in, and he ends up in this interrogation room with Lois Lane. Now, this scene is a little similar to, I just reread Superman's Secret Origin, again by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank, and Superman also sort of ends up in an interrogation room, but with Lois's dad, General Sam Lane. This is not covered in the movies right now.
Okay, so we're starting here in this scene as officially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the coolest part is just how easily he takes off the fucking handcuffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. It's like paper. Like, that was done beautifully, I felt. You know what I mean?
Like, the idea being, like, I'm here because I want to be, not because you have taken me prisoner.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty badass.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. Let's see. So General Sam Lane is in the comics most of the time. Lois's dad is an army general. I believe this was a new thing in post-crisis, but I might be wrong on that because I don't remember him being like this beforehand. The only time that we saw Sam Lane in the movies was, funny enough, in his little cameo scene, if you've seen the director's cut or the 3-hour TV cut of Superman the movie, where he's played in a cameo by Kirk Allen, the first live-action Superman.
Oh, shit. I did not know that.
Yeah. So
wow.
It's where the little girl is like looking out on the train and she sees young Clark and she turns around and it's Noelle Neal, the original Lois Lane, as her mom, and Kirk Allen.
Oh, you did. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've told
Yeah.
me this before, but I didn't know Kirk Allen was totally at the time when you told me.
Well, now you've actually seen him play the role.
Now
Yeah.
I've seen since then Adam-Man versus Superman, which is
Yes.
one of the serials Kirk Allen was in. He's
Yeah.
before George Reeve, just a year or two, right? Before George Reeve.
Yeah, George. Yeah, Adam-Man versus Superman is like 1 year before the George Reeve show.
Yeah,
So
1 year. 1 year.
It's funny because I think of it as like two separate eras, but really they're only like a year apart. That's how Noelle Neal just shows up as Lois Lane in season 2 of George Reeves, and it doesn't seem like she's aged at all because she hasn't. Really.
There's
It's only
not
been
much
a year.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like at the end of every episode, it's like the serial. It's like catch it at this theater next week. You know.
That's how it used to be. But yeah, I look forward to diving into that. But for here, General Sam Lane has not shown up in a lot of the movies, but he is in the TV shows. He was in Smallville, played by Michael Ironside, and he was in Supergirl season 1, played by Glenn Marshauer. However, it looks like due to Crisis, he's been recast with Dylan Walsh, and Dylan Walsh is going to show up as General Sam Lane in Superman and Lois coming in February 23rd.
Nice.
So that's cool. In this interrogation room, Clark reveals to Lois that the symbol on his chest, the one that Andrew and I are both wearing, seems to stand for an S, but Clark brings up that on his world it means hope.
Yes,
And
this serif font S, not even sans serif, but yes. I mean, yeah, that was brought on by, again, like you said, Superman 78, right?
Well, Superman 78 came up with the idea that it's a family crest, but the idea that it means hope comes from Superman Birthright.
Oh, Mark Waid thought of that entirely?
Yeah.
Damn,
So
that's cool.
what they were saying is that in 78 they came up with the idea that this is the House of El crest, and that's it. But Wade added on the fact that the crest means hope, kind of like a family crest usually has some sort of motto or saying on it. So now you tie in both ideas into one.
That's great.
So yeah, Superman Birthright, written by Mark Waid, art by I think it's Leno, is how to pronounce the first name, Francis Yu, and inks by Gary Allen Gouillon. I may be wrong.
That's
that,
Birthright
anyway,
you're talking about?
That is Birthright,
Yeah.
and we'll actually talk more about Birthright when it comes to Lex Luthor in Batman versus Superman.
That's
But
right.
more on that
So
later.
let's if you're like casual comic book fan
Yeah.
out there and you just watch the movies and listen to podcasts, that's cool.
Mhm.
Awesome, great, but Birthright's one of the premier Superman runs.
Mhm.
So check that one out if you can.
Yeah.
It's one of
It's fantastic.
the more modern runs. It's not all too old, right? It's not like it's from the 50s, from like the 90s or early 2000s or something.
Early 2000s.
Yeah,
Early 2000s. It's one of my favorites. I'm about to reread it again, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. So let's see. This is also one of the rare adaptations where Lois knows Clark is Superman from the very beginning.
I think this is part of our this is part of our woke agenda with those liberals in Hollywood. Girls knowing stuff is so stupid.
I think the only time this has kind of happened is in Smallville, but Lois, there was still kind of a thing where Lois knew of quote unquote the blur, which is Clark's persona before he was Superman, before people could actually see what he looked like.
Yeah.
And encountering Clark, and she eventually put 2 and 2 together, but that was before he donned the suit. So I think here it makes sense with this story. I think it works because I think I like sure, if you read it in the context of the 40s and 50s, it's fine for it.
Yeah.
But I also really like stories where she's in on it and she knows and she's a support system and they work together as a team, which is also why I'm looking forward to the Superman and Lois show. Is that we don't have to deal with this whole bullshit of just like, oh, when he puts on the glasses, he's someone else. Oh, silly Clark, he didn't show up when Superman was around. Like all that stuff, like it's been done to death. There's plenty of it out there in other adaptations. I'm completely fine with a Lois who is in on this and not needing to do the whole thing that we had for many years before he finally revealed his identity to her in the 90s.
Yeah, she's in love with Superman, but thinks Clark is lame. This is the original intention. It seems like with Siegel and Shuster, the original creators, like it's that whole thing like you see me as a nerd, and they were nerdy. They created superheroes. They had one of the guys had bottle cap glasses, like so they were part of that world, that early world, and like you see me just as a nerd, but really I'm a Superman on the inside. It sounds like an incel thing these days, but I don't think it was quite that bad. But
I don't think that's what it meant. Yeah.
But well, yeah, maybe I'm taking it too far.
No, well,
that was kind of like the original intention.
Not the incel part, but what you were saying earlier.
Yeah. Incel part was me fucking around.
But the Superman inside is what's supposed to be the relatable part of the character. Is supposed to be the idea that if you only knew who I was, but I feel like you can do that outside of Lois. It doesn't have to just be a love story.
That's the thing. So, and this was even outside of feminist stuff that I can totally just talk about all day, guys. That I know so much about. But outside of all that stuff, it was a good decision. It was a good update to the mythos. It wasn't the first time, right? They probably did that in the comics for a while before Man of Steel.
Well, I mean, she knew the secret, but this is the first time she knows the secret from the very beginning.
Okay.
She doesn't know.
Right.
There's no I know Clark and I know this other superhero thing at all. It's all, this is all the same guy. There is no, hiding around Lois or making sure that Lois. Superman used to do all kinds of bullshit just to make sure that Lois never found out his secret. In like the 50s comics. Yeah. And so it's kind of hilarious that once he finally does tell her, it all it still works. Why was he doing this in the first place if it all still works? And apparently that was the original intention of Siegel and Shuster in that unmade the K Metal from Krypton story that we'll dive into at some point, was that he revealed his secret, or the secret was revealed to Lois, and so that would have happened back in the 40s. So
it was cute. It was cute for a time, it's cute for a time, but now it was people talk about it. They hate it how superhero movies update stuff, change stuff than the original, but this is a good update. That's the main thing. This is a good update, I think. Yeah.
I feel like this one is an automatic point to Snyder. I feel like we should start giving automatic points to Snyder when it's a change we like, because I feel like that's fair, because I do think there was probably criticism on this point. Maybe I didn't read up on it, but I think there were some people who probably were just like, oh man, it's not the same dynamic when it's not that part.
Some diehards maybe, but I think that was pretty much, I don't know. People didn't complain all that much, Yeah,
it's a minor thing.
Yeah.
But shall we give the point to Snyder?
Yeah, we're going to give it to him anyway.
All right. Snyder 2, critics 4, so here we go.
All right, catching up.
Yep. Clark here mentions that he's been on Earth for 33 years. And, of course, this is another Jesus Christ reference. Cavill himself was not 33 when he was shooting. He wasn't even 33 when the movie came out. He was actually younger. He had just turned 30 in 2013 when the movie came out, which means that he was in his late 20s when he was shooting the movie. They deliberately were sliding that Jesus reference in. So for those who don't know, Jesus was 33 when the whole story about the crucifixion and the resurrection happened, I believe.
Generally, look, no one knows for sure. There's no actual dates in the Bibles,
right?
From what I know, but supposedly starts the ministry at 30, and then there's the ministry lasts for 3 years, and then he dies at 33. So,
you know what also has a weird Jesus connection?
What?
Penguin and Batman Returns. Because when the Penguins find his basket, it cuts to Gotham 33 years later.
Oh my God. They love this idea. He's a fake Jesus.
I'm like, this is so random. Yeah. Superman, I can kind of see it, but Penguin, I'm like, I guess because he's born on Christmas. 33 years later, he dies.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's,
Then you got a Moses thing of his basket being down the river. There's something to that.
It's all there. They want to. The thing is, though, these Hollywood types, these writers, they add that stuff on purpose just to give it more power. Of what I mean, maybe a little bit it gives it some power, but it's just so they know what they're doing.
I feel like it's
not an accident.
Sense with Superman. It makes more sense with Superman than with Penguin.
Well, it's more
Penguin. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Well, with the Penguin and Batman Returns, it's like, who wrote that again? Mankiewicz?
Daniel Waters.
Yeah. That's like for a movie and I don't know. Like I feel like with Siegel and Shuster, they are Jewish, and maybe Daniel Waters is too. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, they're pulling more from their own culture. And they're not trying to make a movie per se, and I don't know. There was something more pure about what Siegel and Shuster were trying to do than I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but that's just kind of how it feels, you know. Anytime you write something for a movie, sometimes it just feels like a little bit less pure for some reason. I don't know.
I feel like we don't need Christ references in a lot of this stuff.
They do it just to do it.
It's just not needed. Yeah, just to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of makes sense with Superman or Neo from The Matrix, but that's about it. I don't need it for Penguin. I don't need it for all these other characters.
Yeah.
So we'll see if people stop doing that.
It's a shallow way to add some depth.
I don't need that. Yeah, I think so. I agree. Let's see. When Kal-El gives himself up to Zod and the ship Faora arrives, and Faora is the first Kryptonian who he encounters. During this scene, this is a deep cut for you, in the background, one of the communications officers behind Swanwick and Dr. Hamilton is an actor named Aaron Smolinski. We've seen Aaron Smolinski before. In fact, we've seen him naked. He was baby Kal-El in Superman the movie.
What?
In 1978. Yep.
Did he want to show his dick again?
We should bring him on the podcast and ask him.
Hey, man. Compare it to Burt Ward. Did they ever want to give you any pills?
Let's see. So Snyder wanted this scene with, Kal-El meets Zod, and they're up in the Earth's, outside of the Earth's atmosphere, and Snyder deliberately wanted that element where Superman falls to the ground and sort of vomits or coughs up blood, because he wanted to show a more vulnerable side of Superman without the use of kryptonite.
They have like a red lamp going on in that ship or something, or they just changed the overall atmosphere.
It's a different atmosphere, I believe. Okay. I don't think there's a red lamp. It's a different atmosphere, so all of them are like on equal playing fields.
It's a slight change to mythology there a little bit. They ever had any kind of atmosphere changing his power kind of deal going on in the comics?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure that it's a red sun type of thing is what they were going for on air, but I don't think there's much more to it than that in the movie.
Okay.
But I don't know offhand. Anybody feel free to correct us in the comment section and let us know if there are comics that they were drawing from that specifically this is specifically Kryptonian atmosphere in this ship.
This was in the trailer too, I remember, and him throwing up blood. And obviously, it's an attempt from Snyder and everybody. We want to show Superman very weak in the trailer. That is, to kind of go against all that bullshit about he's too powerful. It's like, okay, man. Well, we're gonna show him like vomiting blood up in the trailer. So, yeah. It
also makes a lot of sense in this because if you introduce kryptonite, then that's way too easy to take out the rest of like everyone else. Like, why doesn't the armor just use it? So I get why there was no kryptonite in this movie because it evens the playing field too much. It's a lot better for him to do it this way.
Yeah, for sure.
During this time, Superman gets this vision where Zod talks to him, and Superman goes from wearing a royal shirt to wearing the black suit, like the one that I'm wearing right now. And so this is the first time that we see Cavill in the black suit before he's going to wear it in the Snyder Cut for the Justice League movie. And, of course, the black suit is to represent the Kryptonian side, since Zod is also in a black suit. Pretty much all the other characters in this movie, the undergarment to the armor is a black uniform. So
this was a cool sequence. I mean, with all the skulls
coming
up and all that. I mean, this is like the nightmare sequence and all that. Like, Snyder really shines with this kind of thing,
Yeah, I agree.
Point to Snyder. I'm just kidding. Another one. And another one.
Zod plans to terraform and turn Earth into a new Krypton, as he reveals to Kal-El in this version. And that's exactly what his plan is in Richard Donner and Geoff Johns' Last Son. So, again, like, it's kind of sad that it doesn't seem like Geoff Johns and Zack Snyder ended up getting along during this time, when a lot of Snyder's stuff is inspired by Geoff Johns himself. So it's unfortunate. But, I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't point out the actual stuff that was drawn off of Johns.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right.
So it's just too bad. It's one of those when you meet your heroes type of thing, it sounds like.
Right.
So, oh well. Let's see. Another cool thing is I really liked the Lois Lane sequence where she escapes from the ship.
Yeah, that was cool.
With Jor-El's help. I think what's also cool, I didn't notice this when I first saw it, but I noticed it later on when people were talking about the soundtrack online. Hans Zimmer gives Lois Lane her own action theme throughout the movie.
Oh shit, that's cool.
It only plays with Lois, so it plays with when she tries to escape her apartment.
You're trying to tell me? Hold on. Let's stop for a second. You're trying to say that Hans Zimmer made a Lois Lane theme, but not a Wonder Woman flight theme? What? What's going on here, man?
Technically gave Wonder Woman her own theme. He just needed to play it in that sequence.
But there's no flight theme.
rather than take it from Sunshine. But yeah.
We have a theme for Lois Lane being like running around a maze on a ship with Ghost Jor-El.
Jor-El. Yeah.
Ghost robot vision Jor-El.
It plays in that sequence, and it plays in the earlier sequence where she's trying to escape from her apartment and escape the army, but then she gets caught. So it's a great theme. I don't think it's in Batman vs Superman, or maybe it is, but just for a little bit.
Not a lot of Lois in there, right? Or no?
There's more Lois in the Ultimate Edition.
Oh, there's is. Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I'm waiting whenever we do our coverage, which is coming up.
That's going to be next time. Yep.
I'm watching it this week.
So I love the sequence. We do have various Kryptonian criminals we see during this. Jax the scientist I mentioned earlier in part 1, is the one who's operating on Superman, and Carvex is the woman who's trying to chase after Lois and is the one who Jor-El's like, move your head, and Carvex tries to go after Lois at that moment. We do have a deeper dive in our Patreon from last week where we went into an hour and a half on the various backstories of all these different Phantom Zone villains, so you can't say Snyder and Goyer didn't do their homework when it came to these guys.
That's true, they do, and you can't say you don't get your money's worth there on their Patreon, guys.
Yes, that was an episode in itself.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so Lois escapes, and the atmosphere now goes back to Earth atmosphere, which allows Superman to have his powers, and he gets to talk to Jor-El for one last time, where Jor-El says, "You can save them. You can save all of them." And cut to Superman.
Everybody remember this line for later.
Yes. It's cut to Superman with his arms outstretched like Jesus as he flies out, which felt a little heavy-handed, but I do love that moment with Jor-El, though.
It was
I
good.
love that moment with
yes,
Jor-El.
It was good.
Like,
yeah.
It gave me chills when I first saw that in the trailer. It was in one of the trailers, and I was like, oh, shit, like, this is going to be a treat.
Russell Crowe is great in this fucking movie.
He is.
I mean, god damn. To me, he kind of seems like, at first, he's like, this is just me judging people the wrong way. Let me just put that out there. But I just feel like Russell Crowe, he doesn't seem like he'd like comics. He doesn't seem like, it's like Seinfeld in a way. Like, it's people that don't seem like they like comics, but he probably does, I don't know.
Maybe.
He just really took it seriously.
Or maybe he just really likes, maybe it's a Brando thing where it's a star, but he just really wanted to put his all into it. So he's great in this. I wish that there was more of him, but
I do
Jor-El,
too.
So
there was some talk of him doing more or something at some point, like a Krypton movie. I don't know. There was, when Man of Steel came out, there was like all kinds of like rumors of all kinds of bullshit.
Yeah,
because
it was a movie to kick off the universe. So of course everyone's gonna be like, there's gonna be this movie, there's gonna be a Trench movie, all those sorts of things.
The Trench that came shortly after Aquaman.
Yeah, it did.
Who knows what's going on with that?
It's not happening.
It's probably not. It's probably not.
Superman saves Lois in the pod. I know we're not going to talk about it till later, but it would have been appropriate, in my opinion, if the Superman and Lois kiss scene was here instead of at the point where, there was all the destruction. Actually, my problem later on with the later kiss scene isn't the actual kiss. I'll get into it when we get to that point.
Okay.
But anyway, it could have been cool, but he saves Lois, and then Zod goes to the Kent farm to try to get to the ship because he thinks the Codex is in the ship, and Martha Kent basically tells him to go to hell, which is fine, which is awesome. And Snyder thinks he even should have given Martha Kent a shotgun during this sequence.
That would have been cool, actually.
Even though it's useless against Zod, but it still would have been cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes Ma Kent seem really badass.
It does,
Yeah.
I think it would have added another dimension, but again, like it would have just kind of been. It's one of those nice to haves. It wouldn't have made everything automatically better, I think. So
right.
Oh well. Let's see. Here's a Snyder versus Critics thing, which is Zod is threatening Martha, and then Superman arrives and tackles Zod and flies him away for threatening his mom. But he also leaves all the other Kryptonians alone with his mom.
This was a mistake.
I agree.
Yeah, I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but
because I'm just like, Okay, but what about everyone else who's there? They can easily take her hostage because they know that there's a connection between the two. They didn't. Like, it's like they just leave her. It's kind of like the Dark Knight, where like Batman saves Rachel, and then the Joker kind of is expected to have just left the party without doing anything because he didn't find Harvey Dent. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Like,
I mean, maybe Snyder could. You can make an excuse for Snyder saying that, like, maybe his cronies don't do anything without him there. And I don't know. They didn't explain that, so you really have to assume otherwise. So it's kind of a point against Snyder. And
maybe he saves her first, takes her away, and then he super speeds back. So all the Kryptonians are just at the farm. They don't know where she went.
Yeah.
And then he super speeds her away. Stay here, Mom. Goes back, and then he does the whole like, you think you can threaten my mother? And then all the cronies are just like, we don't know where the mom is, but go after them because they've got the general. And then, something like that.
Snyder said in some interview that this was the first time Superman throws a punch or something, and it was because he's protecting his mom.
That's true. Actually,
movie.
he doesn't really fight anybody before this. He doesn't even fight Zod or Faora yet because of the fact that he was just surrendering himself earlier. So that's a fair point.
Yeah.
There was a deliberate attempt to show like, hey, this is what happens when you piss this guy off. On the sequence, which I appreciate, and of course it would happen with Martha. It's just the logistics of the scene. I was like, there's nothing stopping Faora from just heat visioning and barbecuing, Martha Kent. Just
Mama.
Yeah. I'm like,
oh no.
All right, so that's gonna be for critics.
Yeah, it's just not
Mama.
great. Yeah, they more than likely they would have taken her. So not good. It makes
I think
Superman
Faora's just going to be like, oh, just leave her alone.
Yeah.
No, Faora's just going to be like, all right, well, this bitch dies.
Yeah. Or at least taken captive.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Which also could have worked. You know, they could have taken her captive later on and then brought her to the Smallville fight, and then he has got to back down. Yeah. So that could have been cool too. So
then we learned that Faora's mom's name is also Martha. So.
We'll get to that in another episode.
Oh man.
Okay, so there's the big fight at Smallville with Faora and Namek for those. So Namek is the big guy.
Okay, let's talk about this name too. Is
Namek.
We talked about Dragon Ball connections. It's also a fucking Dragon Ball name, Namek.
They must have gotten that from the Superman comics because Namek stems all the way back from the 60s or 70s.
I know. It is starting to pile up.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to do a deep dive on Dragon Ball and Superman at some point.
The connections abound. Actually, it's weird.
Yes.
Akira Toriyama is a Superman fan, I think.
You can do those connections, and I already did the James Bond and Batman one. So
boom, there we go.
We'll start doing these deep dives and comparing these characters who you don't originally think are that connected until you realize how much they are.
Right.
So let's see. Here's an interesting tidbit that Snyder brought up. Faora and Namek don't know how to fly at this point, so that's why they're just jumping around and leaping because they're trying to acclimate to their powers. And that's also when Zod's helmet sort of breaks. He's just trying to acclimate to the environment, which is a cool addition.
I think this was sort of clear to me as I was watching it. I was like, oh, they're not flying yet. Yeah. Zod doesn't really fly to the end, right?
No, he doesn't fly to the very end.
Yeah.
There's the part where he like crawls up the building with his hands.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because he doesn't know yet until the very end, and that's awesome, I think.
Yeah,
so,
I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Let's see. It makes a lot of sense because Clark has been on Earth for X amount of years, 33 years in this movie, 28 in the comics. But in the context of the Phantom Zone and stuff, they don't know that they have powers. They don't know how to work those. They aren't trained in this specific thing, so they would need some time to get used to it.
Okay.
So that's good. Here's something where I think should be an automatic point for Snyder, is that Superman does save people in this movie. He saves... During the Smallville, I mean, we've even brought it up earlier, but now that he's in the Superman suit, he saved his mom. He's constantly telling people in Smallville, in the IHOP, to get out of there.
That's true.
And he saves a pilot at one point, and that pilot is actually a real-life Navy SEAL that Snyder brought on for that role. So that's kind of cool. So Snyder gets an automatic point for that, so I believe that makes it Snyder 3.
Points.
Critics 5. See, it's not going to be as much of a landslide as many people might have thought after part 2.
See?
See, we do like this movie.
Talk about it for 3 episodes.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about Wonder Woman 84 for 3 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, this is more of a here's the stuff that we appreciate, and here's stuff that could have been a little better that we agree with. So there's this great shot where after the whole Smallville fight, the army comes to close in on Superman, and you get to see the cape swoosh in on the camera.
Yeah.
There's literally behind the scenes footage of Snyder being off screen using the cape and moving it so he can get that exact shot. So for anybody who's wondering how they got that, that's how they got that.
Is this how? Is this the scene where they're in the desert and he's like floating in the air just a little bit, like a few feet off the ground?
No, this is when the army. This is after the Smallville fight.
Okay.
Where they close in on him, and Hardy is just like, this man is not our enemy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Chris Maloney arguably has some of the most character development in this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
From being
That's
just
true.
like, I don't trust this guy, to being like, this guy's legit.
No, I like this guy.
So they all end up strategizing what they're going to do, and that leads us to my next one, which will be our last one before the break, which is the naming of Superman. Snyder did not want to give the naming of Superman any sort of pomp and circumstance deliberately, and so what happens is Superman sort of gets his name simply because an army dude's just like, they're there with Superman, and Swanwick's like, Superman? He's like, that's what they name him. And this got criticized for just kind of being very anticlimactic. And personally, I get the idea behind it, but I also feel like it could have been done better. Like, it just feels very anticlimactic to me on that, where it's almost like they were trying to go for in between a big moment but not a big moment at the same time.
And it kind of falls flat, you think?
It kind of just falls flat, as opposed to like I wasn't. If you want to understate it, like, I should be impressed with the understated, or something like that.
Yeah,
like I should be like, oh, that's kind of cool that they did it that way, as opposed to just being like, okay, so it's kind of a reveal but not at the same time. So
yeah,
what did you think?
Well, I mean, social media was already a thing. He's wearing a big S. I mean, they could have had some sort of like, yeah, the people are calling him Superman, and maybe that's enough. But the fact that they cut Lois off in mid-sentence, right?
Yeah.
That was not just in the trailer. That made it to the movie.
It's in the movie, yeah.
And it's just like, it kind of reminds me of them not saying zombie in The Walking Dead. They call them walkers. You know what I mean? There's just something about people just not wanting to say that, maybe because they think it's too on the nose. It brings you out of it. You're more in your world. You're using your world's terminology instead of using that world's terminology. So the writer brings you in with its own terminology via walkers, but like, it's a different kind of thing, I guess, with Superman, because you're gonna have to fucking call him that eventually. Walking Dead can go on forever and just call them walkers forever. You don't ever need zombies. But yeah, I agree with you. They needed maybe a better way. Like, it can almost come off as if they're ashamed of the name. It's like the X-Men people making fun of the black. What am I going to wear? Blue and yellow spandex.
Yes.
And then the rest of the audience is like, yes, motherfucker. That's kind of what we want, exactly. I laughed like everybody else did in the year 2000 when it came out, but
right.
As we now see, as we've experimented with this genre for 20 years since then, 21 count and going now, we find that the colorful suits are what we want, and just, I don't know. I'm going off a fucking tangent again, but yes, I don't know. Find a better way than that. Yes, it was not done. So to critics.
To critics. So Snyder 3, critics 6. Snyder will have an opportunity to catch up, because we're going to be doing a lot of. This is where we're getting to some of the most controversial stuff into the movie.
In my head, all that shit is way more connected until I fucking say it out loud. Let me just put. It's like, wait, I'm just rambling now. It's like after a while when I start talking like that.
So Snyder 3, critics 6. We will find out who wins, and then in the second half of this, catch you after the break.
Need some adventure in your life? What Mad Universe is a podcast about the history of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, where we delve the depths of pop culture history.
Everything's the same politically, but we have ray guns.
The actual motive isn't to explore something that's, quote,
Yeah.
scientifically possible or...
But neither is Star Wars, and I know there's arguments about that, but I would definitely consider Star Wars science fiction.
You haven't
It's-
read Dune!
No, I haven't.
You can never be the Kwisatz Haderach. What Mad Universe on the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Jor.
Yes, Zod, what is it? It looks you're in a panic here.
Jor, I know what we can do to take over the council. I have the technology. I know how to use it. All I have to do is create an army by cloning myself.
You're talking like I'm in on this plan.
You're part of it now, Jor. You're the only one who also knows that Krypton's about to explode. We have to do something.
Don't implicate me on this, Zod. I'm trying to just warn people and maybe find another planet for us all to go to. This is heresy.
Hey, don't take my word. That's my word.
I don't care. So I just grab this here gun and then point it at you, and then what does this do? Crikey. There's two of you now.
Heresy. See, I told you that was my word.
This is kind of fun. Are they all like you, Zod?
Take another shot and let's see.
Oh, all right, here we go. Five of you now.
Neil Zod. Perfect. The perfect soldier, just like me.
This is great. Ah, fuck it. Here's some more.
Nyad. 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 Alright, I don't know why they're talking like that, but...
Wow. I guess this means I'll have to build even more spaceships, but... I mean, I know you're the soldier class, but I'm going to need your muscle to help lug around these lug nuts and Kryptonian steel and whatnot in order to build the spaceship. So that's why I need more of you. So yeah, a couple more actually.
Okay, I don't know where that came from.
And then maybe we can talk about you and Faora.
Maybe some other time. This is not my purpose. We must save Krypton. Here, all my soldiers, help Jor store the lug nuts or whatever it is that he needs you to do.
All right, get that lug nut out of your ass. Zod, are these exactly like you, or a little bit different each time?
Something seems to be off. They just... Nyad. Nyad. They're running all over the place. Hey, everybody. Nyad. Kneel before Drew. Maybe that's...
Wait, Drew, hold on a second. Your name is Zod, right? Zod is your first name or no?
That's my last name, but like I don't want to be one of those people who refers to himself, in his last name in third person. If I'm going to do it third person, at least be humble and call it by my first name, but I don't know if I like that.
You're telling them to say kneel before Drew.
Yeah, I don't like the ring to it. I need to work on it.
Am I talking to the original Zod? I don't even know anymore. Ah, fuck it. Okay. Kneel before, that doesn't really have the ring to it. I think you should maybe stick with the family name there, mate.
Okay, all right. Everyone, kneel before
Zod.
Oh, there you go.
That sounds better.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thanks, Jor. Heresy. Nyad.
All right, everybody, if you like that sketch right there, we have that, plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
Acid rain, drug addiction, domestic terrorism. Now more than ever, it is important to remember what truly matters. Superhero stuff you should know. Don't miss superhero stuff you should know on a podcast app near you. Your life may just depend on it.
We're back on the fucking air, everybody. Let's get this shit, Ben.
Woo! All right, so this...
And Lieutenant Snyder shit. Fucking let's do it.
Well, we did bring up, you were talking about colorful costumes, and I thought it would be good, especially because we
Off
have
the
a fan
air, I
comment
think.
later on.
Off the air, I think. Did I? No, I brought it. That was on the air.
You
yes.
brought it up.
That
You
was
brought it up on
that
the
was
air.
on the air.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right. You're right.
Because we do have a fan comment talking about them not being a fan of the Superman suit in this movie. The Superman suit, I believe, was probably, if there was any controversy about it, it was probably due to the fact that it wasn't quite traditional. It was more muted. There was no trunks, red trunks, which we haven't seen on a Superman in live action.
The evolution of the Superman trunks are as follows.
Yes.
Above the goddamn belly button in George Reeves' time and Kirk Allen, all the way down looking like some big-ass boxer shorts.
Yes.
Then Christopher Reeve is like a normal, 1970s, what you call it, like Calvin Klein, like a regular cut of tidy whities, but, of course, red. Then, what's after that? Brandon Routh. I know I'm skipping some, but Brandon Routh.
If we're going movie only, then yeah.
Actually, no, that's actually skipping. Have you ever seen the picture of fucking what Nicolas Cage's look like?
I've seen many because he's had a lot of different costumes.
Nicolas Cage, one of it looks like a goddamn red Speedo. Okay, and then then they go back to a little bit more conservative where it looks like, I don't know, like thin boxer shorts, and then finally you have none. That was for Superman Returns, and then none at all for Man of Steel.
Well,
the
none
evolution
for Man
of the
Steel.
underpants.
He had them in. He had them in Superman Returns. I'm pretty sure
he did.
But
Yeah. It was
it
was his boxer brief looking thing, but nowhere near the George Reeve one.
That was the last. Yeah, that was the last time
Reeves.
that we had that in in the movies in live action. But here, like the colors are darker. The yellow is not as bright, and instead of the I'm just gonna bring it up. Instead of the trunks and the traditional belt, the belt is kind of more of the alien design of what seems to be the shape of a belt without actually being a belt because it's not wrapping fully around the waist.
What are your thoughts on this suit? We haven't talked about the suit actually in detail at all.
I think it's great. I like it a lot. I'm not. Maybe it's not as bright as previous versions, but I think it fits well on Cavill. I think the colors are fine to me. I think it has the nice mix of both the traditional Superman outfit with the Kryptonian sort of designs that they have in the movie. So I haven't had a problem with any of the suits that Cavill had, especially compared to poor Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh had a way better Superman suit in Crisis on Infinite Earths on television than he did it in Superman Returns, where just like the S was puny and the colors, it was like maroon instead of red. I was like, it just kind of looks ugly in comparison to what we've seen before. The Kingdom's Come suit he wore in Crisis was so much better than what he had to wear in Superman Returns. And the Tyler Hoechlin's suits could be better. Even the new one, I'm just like, I'm not sure about the S being just part of the suit itself. But I think he's a great Superman.
Yeah.
But I think Cavill probably has, in my opinion, probably the best Superman suit since Reeve.
I agree. I don't really miss the red trunks, really. I know that's iconic, and Stephen Colbert at the time actually said something on the Colbert Report. This was before he had his own the Colbert Show or whatever, I think.
Right.
He's also a Superman fan, it seems like, but he, it's. I don't really need it, and like Snyder's talked about this before too, where Snyder seemingly aware that this suit comes from circus strongmen, and they kind of had an underwear on the outside look at that time when Siegel and Shuster made this suit. So, they say that the reason superheroes wear tights is because Superman did, and the reason Superman did is because circus strongmen did at the time.
Right.
And then another thing I think is a full body suit sort of kind of has a sci-fi vibe. Like a full, maybe classic sci-fi, but people like retro futurism kind. I don't know. Maybe I'm going way off the rails here, but like almost a retro sci-fi vibe. I don't know. I just sort of connect those in my head for some reason. And Superman being a sci-fi character, I just think that it's not. It was again points to Snyder is what I'm saying. This, are we doing points for this one?
We're definitely doing points for this one. I think.
Okay.
I didn't initially plan for it, but I'm also like, there's a bunch of stuff that were not as controversial as like the destruction of Metropolis that we should still address and give points to, especially because we do like this interpretation in the movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah. The
that's
suit's
gonna be
good.
Snyder 4, critics 6. I'm kind of somebody who's just like I appreciate it when they do have the trunks, because then kind of shows like, hey, like we're going to stick to the original tradition. But if they don't have it, I'm not like, oh my god, why didn't they have the trunks? I'm kind of just like, all right, well, they decided not to do it for this version, whatever, like I still haven't seen Batman in trunks
Right.
all these years.
Never.
We've seen him with rubber nipples, but he's never
True.
never had the underwear on the outside, and it would actually arguably would make more sense with him, because it could just be a harness for when he's climbing up buildings and shit.
And like I know it's supposed to be alien, and then aliens could do weird stuff like, underwear on the outside. I get it. But
Right.
this is again a sci-fi suit that comes from a fucking spaceship, and I don't know. I just think it works for this movie, and I don't mind the yellow being gone and the crest.
Right.
And the belt also. I remember that being a thing too, and it's just like, again, it being a sci-fi suit, we just don't really need a belt. We don't need that. You need the cape. I don't want to update that much. That's where you go too far. You need the cape. You need the boots.
Yeah.
Like, to me, Snyder kept all the fucking shit you need.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree that's there. You don't necessarily need all the other stuff. If it's there, fine.
Yeah.
But if not, then close enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I guess another thing to bring up, since we're sort of pitting the traditional Superman stuff versus Man of Steel, is we talked about the music earlier, the theme song. So this is the first time since Superman in the Moment that we haven't had the John Williams Superman score in that Superman movie.
Yeah.
It was in all the Christopher Reeve movies. It was in Superman Returns. It was also used on television with Smallville. There's probably other versions I'm missing right now where they've used it. They also used it in a bunch of cartoons as well. And Hans Zimmer comes in and does something that feels very much like it's a deliberate choice to do a different style. It's not a fanfare at all. It's very hopeful theme. It's more understated. It's definitely a different style. It's kind of like what he did with the Batman theme, where he did a different style from the traditional Elfman or Shirley Walker one on it. Do I prefer one over the other? I think the Williams Superman score is iconic. I think the theme is absolutely iconic. However, I think the Zimmer Superman theme is fantastic as well. This is a score that I listened to a lot when I was preparing the notes on this. It's a great score. It's a fantastic work. So for me, I'm just like, I didn't need John Williams in this movie. I don't think this movie would work as well with John Williams. Just like I don't think Batman Begins would have worked with the Danny Elfman theme. You kind of need to give it its own thing. The only reason why I kind of excused it in Justice League was that it was kind of cool to hear it with Cavill, but in general, it's going to have more impact when we see it in the Snyder version, where they bring back his theme as opposed to the one in the Donner movies and the John Williams stuff, because that's the theme that Cavill's Superman has. So for me, point goes to Snyder when it comes to choosing this.
I agree. Again, points to Snyder. It's good. It can be too much of a good thing, maybe. I don't know. Like with the Williams score, it's good, but it's Snyder's trying to differentiate himself too, and he did in numerous ways, as we all know. But yeah, this is a great score. It's not quite as like Kevin Smith brings this up too. With the older themes, with the older Batman one and the Williams one, it's you can kind of hum them, you know. But with Zimmer's, they're not really hummable, which maybe is a slight minus. But at the same time, that's just another difference that this score has. And I mean, we all heard the beauty of this score in those first trailers. I mean, go back and watch trailer 3 for Man of Steel. It's just like it works so beautifully. And yeah, I agree. I think Zimmer did a great job with this.
I just feel like if it's a fanfare type of theme, it's always going to be compared to Williams. So the idea is to do something completely different, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think that it's the appropriate way to go, because otherwise people are just like, hey, it's good, but it's not as good as Williams.
You got to carve out your own niche, man. You got to make your
It's
own
a different
way.
style.
Yeah.
It's a different style, and I think it works. So Snyder 5, Critics 6. See?
Oh,
things are getting
shit.
Things are getting
It's heating up.
pretty
You
close.
didn't
Yep.
expect this, did you, Internet?
All right. So next one, this is going to be mostly focused on Snyder versus Critics for the rest of this because we have a whole lot of action sequences, and a lot of it was very controversial. So one of it is
Yeah.
the idea where Superman and the Army split off, where there are like two world engines. There's one in Metropolis and one in the Arctic. And Superman goes to the one in the Arctic because he feels that if he doesn't stop it, the gravity field will keep expanding.
Wait. It's in the Indian Ocean, right?
It's in the ocean, or it feels like the Arctic. It's actually no, it's in the ocean. Yeah, you're right.
It's Indian Ocean, I believe.
It's in the ocean. I remember it being in the ocean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was the Arctic, but I got that mixed up with where the ship was.
No, I
in the
got
beginning
you.
of the movie.
I think that's because that they're the
It's the middle of
they're
nowhere,
the exact,
basically.
but also that's the exact opposite of America. I think the Indian Ocean,
Got it. Okay.
opposite side of the globe. I remember, dude. I'm telling you, I was insane about this movie. Like I did lose that like a little bit of research at the time.
This is Andrew doing the corrections department on me, everybody.
I saved you a couple comments there. So
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Man.
Camden was going to swoop in and just be like, actually.
Captain B-Swinger.
Captain B-Swinger.
You're going to get a bunch of actually memes with the actually.
Yes, so this was criticized because the world engine is in Metropolis, whereas the Indian Ocean, there's nobody there except for Aquaman and, a bunch of sea life.
He's going to throw a polar bear at you.
Yeah. The criticism was Superman didn't go to where the people were on it and was instead, you see all this destruction in Metropolis.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I haven't thought about that one. I've known all of these up until this one. Yes, but that's right.
Where do you stand on this?
Critics. This is not good. This is not good, actually. I haven't even thought about this one. Why? This is a problem. This is a problem, Hollywood writers. Look, I'm not a fucking writer. You have a fucking career out there if you're listening. But why bring the action outside of this whole other fucking thing? Keep it in Metropolis, man. What the fuck are you doing? You know?
Swish it. Have the army in the other place. Plus, there's if I don't stop it, the gravity field will keep expanding. I'm just like, well, that's because of a rule you wrote in. Like that.
Yeah.
This is a made up world. You can change the rules of it as long as it makes sense with what's going on.
And this will come back to our talk when we talk about the destruction. But when you're a writer,
we're about to, yeah.
You are God. You are God when you write. You can change all the rules. So and everything that happens. So let's just keep that in mind whenever we get to the next part. But yes, critics for sure.
Yeah, I agree with this because of the fact that this movie, his first time in Metropolis, it feels like, is when he goes to fight Zod, and I kind of wish that he had more time in Metropolis earlier. I get that in this version, he's not at the Daily Planet yet. He's not a reporter. However, just imagine some sort of emotional connection to the people there when he saves them. There's no emotional connection to Perry, Steve, and Jenny from Superman's standpoint because he doesn't know who they are yet. There's this whole sequence where Perry is trying to save Jenny and give her hope and all that. And I'm like, this would be fantastic if they had been saved earlier by Superman, had seen Superman, had been inspired by Superman. Perry's inspired by Superman to stick it out with Jenny and potentially sacrifice himself with her so that she's not alone and doesn't have to die alone.
Right.
That would have been a fantastic beat. Instead, it's just okay, I'm expected to care about these characters, but they don't have anything to do with Superman's development. It's kind of just it's a nice moment with these minor characters, but how does it tie into the theme of everything? Sure, the theme is hope, and the theme is Superman inspiring people, but these people don't know who Superman is right at this moment. They've never seen him before. They have no interaction with him at all.
The theme of the movie is not even really hope. It's mentioned, but it's not the theme.
It doesn't feel like it, no. And that's the problem. I wish that Superman went to Metropolis, not necessarily because you just need to see Superman save people. That part's true, but also from a storytelling standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, it would just make everything more powerful that they have there.
Yeah.
It would give him a connection to Perry, Steve, and Jenny when he saved them and see their reactions to him and see how his actions inspire them, just like we kind of see how his actions sort of inspire Colonel Hardy to sacrifice himself for the Phantom Zone thing.
Right.
So
no, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. again, like you need to set up what is his relationship with Metropolis. Like with Batman, it's easy because Gotham is where he grew up, and that's where his parents died in a gutter, as we've seen 300 times in the movies. But in Superman, in this version, he hasn't been to Metropolis before. His heart is in Smallville.
Dude,
So you need to give him something.
Talking about his relationship with Gotham, man. Fucking Kevin Smith, his daughter Harley Quinn Smith, said in some interview or some clip that sometimes her dad, Kevin Smith, gets high and starts crying about how beautiful it is, about how much he sacrifices for Gotham.
That's definitely more hardcore than me.
That's good. He stands so hard, bro. That shit's hilarious, man.
I got you saying it.
That's how this shit starts. I started saying bro just to make fun of people that say bro, and now I really say it.
That's the problem with trying to be ironic these days.
Yeah.
So during this road engine scene, apparently this is Henry Cavill's favorite scene in the movie. Is when he
I did
stops
not
the
know
road
that.
Engine.
Did not know that.
He mentions this in the
Indian
commentary.
Ocean one.
Yeah, the Indian Ocean one.
Why is that his favorite?
Compared? I don't know. Maybe it's just his resolve to stop the thing. Maybe because of the fact that he's clearly he's straining himself just to try to destroy this thing. But again, like imagine Perry, Jenny, Lois, everybody's watching him as he's like fighting back this thing.
It's a cool action, but it's just the action itself is cool. And that guy finally got his wish that wrote Wild Wild West. Isn't that a thing where the guy there's some connection there?
Yeah,
where
John Peters really wanted Superman to fight a giant spider, and we kind of got in this movie where the Kryptonian ship of the world engine sort of forms into a tentacled type of thing with legs to fight Superman. So that's kind of what Andrew's talking about.
Yeah, it's been some weird thing with the ramp up to Man of Steel, I guess, and that's did he get it in Wild Wild West? I only saw that in the theater. But
he did it in Wild Wild West. Yeah.
The guy likes
Kevin
spider
Smith saw
fights.
it. Kevin Smith saw that and he was like, "Motherfucker."
Yeah, so it's a little weird. Again, action is cool, but you don't need it. You just don't need to write that in, like you said earlier.
Yeah, and also I feel that like. If you had it with Metropolis, what does he learn? He learns about Metropolis. He has a connection to Metropolis. He has a connection to these people. He saves Perry White, and now he has a reason to go to Perry White for a job. It would play so much in the story. What does this play in for the rest of the story with him stopping in the ocean?
It shows he can fly really fast. That's it. He flies to the end of the ocean and fights.
We already knew that.
Yeah, we already know. It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything to progress his story, as opposed to when you saw. Just to compare it to the origin movie that inspired it, Batman Begins, like each scene had something where he learns something that he applies to the next part. He goes to visit Gordon and he tries to jump that rooftop and he barely makes it. And then the next time he shows up to Morgan Freeman, he's like, "Yeah, I need something for base jumping."
That's what that's what's so great about Batman Begins. They're like, why bats? Why fear? Why theatrics? Why this? Why that? Like Nolan is really good at that kind of thing with themes and stuff like that. I think honestly that's one of Nolan's greatest strengths, and I don't think Snyder is quite as good at that particular thing.
Right, I feel like Snyder has those in mind, but it's kind of a difference in conveying it. I'd say Nolan, if he has any flaws with themes, is that he hits you over the head with them.
Yeah,
Snyder might have the opposite problem, where like you kind of the average person who doesn't read into the stuff kind of needs to read an essay from a Superman enthusiast on why. This is such a great moment here with a flight scene or something like that. It's not the same type of. It's not quite on the same level because they have different strengths. They're different people.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me. But I was just like, if I have a big problem with the last, I'd say, hour of Man of Steel, it's that there's a lot of opportunities to go differently that would have had a lot more emotional impact on me. And instead, I'm kind of just left somewhat bored by just watching more destruction and more Superman flying through shit, as opposed to being more invested about that's cool. He saved these, he saved Perry, and that's going to set up this part or whatever, or other parts that were similar to Batman Begins, where it explains this or that part of the Superman mythos that you didn't think about before.
Are we at the city destruction now, or is there more?
We're getting close to it.
I don't know how much I want to say before we get to the actual that part officially.
We're getting pretty close. Getting pretty close.
Okay.
I would say let's start talking about it when he's actually in the fight with Zod, because the main criticism had to do more with Superman allowing that to happen than it did with the fact that the city was being destroyed. So right now he's just destroyed the world engine in the ocean.
Okay, he's destroyed the world engine. He's coming back, and now he's fighting Zod.
He's going to come back to fight Zod, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
So there were some people who claimed during the world engine scene as well, when he is like straining himself, they claimed that they CG'd Christopher Reeve's face.
This was a
him.
rumor, right? But that's not real though.
I don't think that's real. I think Snyder would have confirmed that by now. I just think that's just what Cavill looks like.
Yeah.
Cavill just looks like Superman. They have similar looks. Like, okay, that's just what happened.
There's a type.
Yeah, exactly.
Hamilton and Hardy end up sacrificing themselves to send Faora and the criminals into the Phantom Zone. Lois is the only survivor because Superman's able to save her. The original idea, however, was to send Zod along with them into the Phantom Zone, which would have saved this entire final city destruction controversy on it.
This is next snap, too.
They felt that, quote unquote, it felt like a cop-out for the story that we were telling. So
they didn't like that it sounded cheesy. That's what it sounds like to me.
I guess so.
They wanted more violence, really.
We really need some killing.
We need to inject some testosterone into this motherfucker.
Superman Last Son, the story arc Superman Last Son ends in a similar way where Superman has to work with others in order to send Zod and the Phantom Zone criminals back to the Phantom Zone. However, in the comic, he isn't working with the army. He's working with Lex Luthor.
Okay.
So that's kind of a cool thing, but that's probably where they got that from.
Okay.
Superman saves Lois, and here's where we get to the next Snyder versus critics. He saves Lois, they kiss, and then she makes a joke about how it all goes downhill after the first kiss. Now, mind you, this is after we're like in the rubble of all of Metropolis, and I'm like, feels A, it's not that funny, and B, it just feels kind of tone deaf to the rest of the movie, because the movie doesn't seem like it's about making these types of jokes. This isn't like
not a lot of humor in this movie, actually.
There's not a lot of humor, and you don't need that moment. Like, this is definitely a line that did not need to be there. I kind of get it with having them kiss for the first time here because he saved her, but you don't need that line. So for me, I side with the critics on this.
Okay. This happens in Aquaman too. They fucking kiss in the middle of a fucking war zone. Like, I guess maybe the writers are thinking, we don't know if our characters are ever going to see each other. They don't know if they're going to see each other again, so that's why they do it. But still, me as an audience member, when I watch this kind of shit, I'm just like, I'm trying to fucking survive right now. Some fucking building can fall on me. I can get shot by an Atlantean. Like, why?
Right.
It almost takes me out of it a little bit whenever they have these kiss scenes in the fucking middle of a fucking action scene like this. Like when you said it was in the, in Smallville or whatever, on the
after
farm.
After he saves her in Smallville, that would have made more sense.
That would have been way better for me personally. The kiss was not great. I mean, not movie ruining. Yeah, that's critics.
Okay, that makes it Snyder 5, critics 7. So critics are still ahead right now on it. To me, I wouldn't. It's less about the kiss and more about the joke. I was just like, you didn't need it here. Like, he could have gotten away with that more in Smallville because he just saved her and he didn't know yet that they were going after Martha. But here, I'm just like, I don't know.
Why? Because the joke sounds like, the rest of this movie is going downhill?
No, it sounds like it's callous about what just happened, or why is she joking about that when, look at the destruction around you, that type of thing. Like, it makes more sense when he rescues her and they land in a cornfield.
Yeah.
And they have time to breathe, but it doesn't look like they have time to breathe. Like, look at what happened to the city, and you've got Zod still alive, and he's right over there. So it feels like that was out of place, and all you needed to do was either cut the line or move that scene to earlier.
Yeah, no, I agree.
For me,
critics.
All right, now we get to the destruction of Metropolis. I'm going to hand this over to you because I feel like you have a lot to say about this.
I mean, not as much as my intro to this whole thing, but I did fucking hint at this shit in an earlier episode.
Yes.
This is, the most divisive thing in the whole movie, and amongst fans. And I think it's complicated, and that's why it's divisive, in a sense. When I like I said in the intro to this whole series, I didn't really notice this was a problem. Actually, maybe, I don't know. I was just too caught up in the movie or something. I didn't really notice this was an issue until I read some bad reviews after I saw the movie. I was trying not to spoil it for myself, so I didn't read fucking anything. But I do think my controversial opinion about it that I talked about earlier is that Henry Cavill, Superman, he's never. We can kind of assume really that he's never really thrown a punch before. He, didn't even fucking save his dad because he didn't want to show that he had that he had powers. So he doesn't know what he's doing. He's fighting a soldier. So Zod is owning this fight. Zod owns this shit. Zod's the soldier. The only thing he's got is he's more used to his powers. Cavill's more used to his powers, and Zod's just revving up for that. So that's kind of a, you kind of lean more towards Snyder at this point in the conversation, right? People say, well, he should have taken it outside of Metropolis and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, Cavill doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. This version of Supes, he's just trying to keep pace. That's how I read it. Okay. And I do think Snyder just likes those visuals, like that one where he just jumps over a goddamn exploding truck or something.
Yeah, like, I know exactly what you're talking about. It just
blows up behind him. Like it's silly. It's kind of silly. Snyder I can tell he just loves the visual. Without it, it doesn't really need for it to make much sense. But like we said earlier, now leaning back towards the critics, you're God, remember. So you didn't have to have it like this at all, the writers. You know what I mean? You could have, I don't know, you could have skipped this city destruction entirely, but also leaning back, I'm telling you, it gets fucking complicated. You can lean back towards Snyder, and maybe Snyder wanted there to be some casualty to Superman being an idiot. Because he's just starting out. They're trying to be Batman Begins. This is Superman Begins, kind of. And it's, I could see Superman just not knowing what to do here. I don't have the same excuse for the neck snap. This is just for city destruction. I see those two as kind of separate.
I agree.
So it can kind of go either way. Obviously, I know I'd never say this, but I'm saying it could have been better. It just could have been better, as we all know. I see both sides, and I guess that's it I have for the moment. What do you think?
Well, I'll chime in with my thoughts because I guess I have a different perspective than most critics on this, because most critics are just like, Superman didn't save all those people. Or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but that wasn't really what tripped me up when I was watching it. I just felt like, here's all this action, with trying to stop the Phantom Zone villains. And
we throw punches, unlike that last movie.
Yes, and then we throw punches again for another 15 minutes.
Many punches.
Many punches, and I'm just like, okay, like this is getting a little repetitive to me personally. I know that you're a bigger fan of Superman fights than I am.
I like it. It feels like Dragon Ball live action. I think it's cool.
Right.
It's fun.
But I'm just like, I mean, that's not to say that I don't like watching Superman fight, but it's just like with any other action sequence or fight scene to me, where I'm just like, there's a big difference between two dudes I don't know going at it versus one dude that I hate and one dude who I'm rooting for.
Right.
It's like the difference between seeing a random street fight between two random strangers versus like your best friend is going at it with a guy that like ruined his life.
Well, Zod also says, "I won't stop till everybody's fucking dead."
Right.
You know what I mean? So
there's a deliberate, in terms of intentions, there's a deliberate part of Snyder's part where Zod's kind of just like, either I'm going to succeed in this or you kill me. Like, this is almost like a suicide by Superman type of thing.
Yeah.
In a way. But for specifically the destruction of Metropolis, I was like, I don't think I quite pinned it down until I rewatched it and I realized, I was like, this would have a lot more impact if the destruction, if Superman does learn later on about it, or like, maybe I should have done this or that or those types of things. But the problem is in Batman versus Superman, he doesn't really do that. The consequences basically come out from Lex taking advantage of that guy in the wheelchair, but Superman himself doesn't really talk about learning anything from that or evolving as a character from that. I'm not even sure how they would have done that either. But I'm saying, if the argument is that, Superman's supposed to learn that, that's not really conveyed in the follow-up. So the consequences are only conveyed through other characters, but not anything in terms of Superman's evolution. My other problem with it, though, is that there's a clear sense thematically from Snyder that he wants us to be about Superman choosing Earth over Krypton, and this ties into Zod's death as well. And I was like, this would be a lot more dramatic if that felt like a hard choice. Here, he's been on Earth for 33 years. His only exposure to Kryptonians are these assholes who threatened the world and then took him hostage and then have been trying to destroy it. Like, that's not that dramatic of a choice, in my opinion, for him to do that. I think this would have a lot more emotional resonance if earlier, and again, you don't need to make this that big of a thing. It doesn't have to be a full season like with Smallville, but in Smallville season 9, there was a whole season where Clark meets the young clone of Zod, and he knows that Zod is going to turn into General Zod, but he knows that this is a clone, and so he's like, maybe I can redeem him, maybe I can help him out because he's like me. I haven't really met a lot of other people like me. There's a version of Supergirl he meets earlier in the show, but there's a connection there, and especially when it comes to Man of Steel, like this version is not he's not really friends with a lot of people. You don't really see him with Pete Ross that much because Pete Ross was a bully in this version. Lana Lang, not so much. Like, he's pretty much a loner, and to see him have somebody to connect with, to see somebody who is just like, oh, you're like me, and maybe I can guide you, and I don't feel so alone. Because that's what he feels like. He feels like alone early in this movie. If you just had some sense of bonding. So if I were just to make one small change to this movie, is that Zod doesn't threaten the Earth when he first makes that message. He basically just says, I just want one guy for my kind, and I'll be out of your hair.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Superman has no sense that this guy's a threat, which kind of makes sense for him to go up to that scout ship without, much protection on him. On that, and then for a while, for a scene on the scout ship, he bonds with those people for a little bit, learns about Krypton just for a little bit, learns about Zod and offers to guide Zod, and then you turn the tables on him with the whole vision and what Zod actually plans for Earth, and then Clark's like, oh shit,
yeah,
but right. At that point,
this is great.
At that point, now you're just like, now that's a dilemma because here are people who make you not feel so alone. Here are people who you've always wanted to go back to, who have answers about where you're from, but they want to destroy the home that you were part of. Now that's a dilemma. Now that's something where if I see him fighting Zod at that point, he's not just fighting some random dude who's going to destroy Metropolis. He's fighting the last other person of his kind.
Yeah. I'm sad because they missed this whole opportunity. Now I'm sad.
I didn't write it, so this is how I would do it.
This is making me so sad. Yeah.
And that, in a way, that's what makes Superman more relatable and gives us an emotional core through the last hour of this movie. Is what the hell am I supposed to do from Clark's standpoint? What the hell am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to fight a guy who could have the potential to be, a father figure to me or a best friend or something, and instead, these are the people that I come from, and sort of the feeling of I don't belong to either world, really, because he doesn't. He's not as Kryptonian as Zod and the others because they want to destroy the world and all that, but he's not human like everyone else, and so it's him being okay with that and going to be the fact like, okay, I'm going to choose to protect Earth, and if I'm the last one, if I'm alone through that, then so be it. But and
that makes the whole plot around his character arc too. Like that's all. Yeah, that one little change is like, yeah, you found the key there. That's great. Yeah. So that's a long way to say critics on this one. Critics. Tis ultimately critics. I mean, it is. I'm gonna vote critics, but like I said, if you don't add anything, if you're just watching the Snyder version of it, you're just watching the version that we got, just to support Snyder a little bit. I do understand that that version of Soups does not know what the fuck he's doing.
Right.
No, he is a total noob Superman. So
I agree with that. That's also kind of why for you guys to check it out on my channel coming up, the Justice League, the time travel cut, I put up the full pitch, and in my version of the Justice League, Superman says to Batman, the Justice League, one of its main purposes is to prevent anything like the destruction of Metropolis from happening again. Because now it's not just me, it's everybody up against like big alien invaders. So like that would have been cool I pitched that into the Justice League pitch because of the idea that, okay, all this stuff happens, but here's how people learn from it or move on from it, and here are the other consequences, and sometimes positive consequences that come about from that.
I had this headcanon thing for the end of this movie, after, when I was trying to deal with all the criticism I was seeing online, and you know how they wanted to get the Justice League so badly. So what if everything plays out the same? Shit's falling from the fucking sky, but as it falls, there's a red streak going through Metropolis. There's green here and there. You know what I'm saying? And then the Justice League shows up, and they're like, it just ends with like Bruce saying, "We have to talk," and then cut to credits. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just like a fun way to like, if they wanted to get to the whole Justice League, and like Justice League basically saved his ass in from A, criticism, but B, people in Metropolis and all that. Right. So it would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a fun alternate thing to do, but also I can kind of see why we're here. They wanted to keep it standalone to keep Clark's story, because I don't think they quite knew they were going to be setting up a universe or how they were going to be setting up that universe yet at this point.
I don't think they knew, because didn't they want Green Lantern, the Ryan Reynolds one, to kind of start off the DCU?
That's what I had heard. So that didn't work out.
So they weren't sure about this one either, but it was just successful enough to where they just kept Man of Steel part of the canon.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
All right, we finally made it. Let's talk about that neck snap.
Okay, your thoughts. Let's hear them. Let's hear. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a whole bunch of stuff on this. So,
you want me to go first or no?
I have a few. How about this? I go through some deep dive type stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go into your opinion, and then I go into mine.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
We start with the deep dive, because we kind of did a lot of the debate stuff.
Okay.
Already.
Okay.
So this is not the first time Superman has killed Zod.
Boom, you haters.
Boom, drop the mic. So there's a little bit of whataboutism to this, because on whataboutism from the standpoint of people who defend this movie to the critics, because they bring out like, what about in Superman 2? In Superman 2, in both versions, Superman crushes Zod's hand and then throws him down into the abyss of the Fortress of Solitude. And the same happens to the other Phantom Zone villains. And while there is a deleted scene where Zod, Non, and Ursa all get escorted into a police car, again, that's a deleted scene. So as far as we're concerned,
not canon.
All three Phantom Zone criminals are dead at the bottom of the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
And played off more like a joke, really. Like, it's more of just like, haha, gotcha type of thing. Even though it's technically, I think, the first time that Christopher Reeve Superman kills anybody at that point. So while I agree that yes, he does kill in Superman 2, that doesn't, just because it happens in one movie doesn't negate the problems of another movie. I would say that yes, I don't like it in Superman 2 either, but that doesn't mean that the Man of Steel execution of the literal execution of Zod is suddenly absolved, That's the problem with whataboutism. You bring up some other thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that the movie you're talking about or the story you're talking about is absolved of anything. It just means that it happened in something else. Most of the time that people are trying to point out hypocrisy in that situation, but I'm saying I'm not a hypocrite, because I didn't necessarily like him killing Zod in either situation.
Yeah,
so
it's not good.
Let's see. This also happens in the comics. So in issue Superman number 22 by John Byrne, this is after his Man of Steel reboot in the 80s with post-crisis.
Another landmark run.
Yeah. After that landmark run in Superman number 22, there's a story called The Price, where Superman is in an alternate universe called the Pocket Universe, and that universe is being ruled by Zod. And the Faora version of a version of Faora named Zeora. I have a feeling somebody at the editorial team forgot how it was originally spelled. And Quexel. But anyways, it's three Phantom Zone villains led by Zod, and they've kind of destroyed everything. And at the end, he takes away their powers with gold kryptonite. And then due to the destruction of the world, he's like, I'm sorry, I have to do this. And he uses green kryptonite on them and executes all three of them.
This is in the 80s, right? Mid-80s?
This is in the 80s, yeah. So Superman actually did do this. Yes, it's an alternate universe version of Zod and Faora/Zeora, but it still happened on here. I would argue that the Man of Steel version is the best simply because he does it to save people, as opposed to in Superman 2, he does it to basically show Zod, hey, guess what? You're powerless now.
Since you said to save people, I just want to say real quick.
Yeah.
They made it exactly to where he would have. They tried to rate it. They wrote it in a sense that he had to do a neck snap. He had nothing else he could do because there's like a big ass wall. There's these these people there that Zod's about to fry. And then, so they can't run this way. The laser's the other side, right? The heat vision?
Right, I mean...
like, they do everything in their power to make it so where the writers make, writers... I'm fucking losing my train of thought here. But they do everything that they can to make it to where Superman has to kill Zod. And,
like, try to at least, yeah.
Yeah, and it just seems like they went out of their way with that shit, but... Anyway,
they kind of did, but I'm also kind of just like, he's clearly holding the head. The beams are that way. Like, couldn't you just like duck and crawl away or something? Because you see that Superman's got it handled. Of course, you don't know who's who, so maybe that's the reason why. But I'm also, here's what kills me though. Like, okay, maybe they couldn't get out of it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Superman. There's another argument that Superman should have just covered Zod's eyes.
I remember, people talk about that. Yeah.
My biggest problem, outside of what I'm about to go into, is the fact that we don't even see the family he saves after he kills Zod.
That's true.
For all we know, they're dead. Like, there's no wide shot reveal of like the family who's like crying and
right.
And thankful to him. Like, okay, there's a lot to go into, but anyway.
Sorry to cut you off there.
I'm not going to get into opinion yet.
Go ahead.
Snyder did say that this is supposed to be Zod. The execution of Zod, killing Zod, is supposed to be him choosing humanity over Krypton, as I talked about earlier. It's supposed to be the decision to be alone and quote-unquote tear a piece of his heart out in order to do that. Again, I feel like that would have been better conveyed with the rewrite that I pitched earlier in this episode, where he actually has more of an emotional connection to Zod. Also, there was an explanation that came about from Snyder during this time about why it was important for Superman to kill on that. And I'm going to have Andrew read it off because it was a very interesting, fascinating explanation.
In the original version of the script, he just got zapped into the Phantom Zone. Stupid! David Goyer and I had long talks about it, and Christopher Nolan and I talked long about it, and he was just dumb. Anyway, and I really feel like we should kill Zod. I mean, I really feel like it, okay? And I really feel like Superman should kill him, because I just love killing. The why of it was, for me, I go, if it's truly an origin story, you got to kill a motherfucker. His aversion to killing is unexplained. It's just in his DNA. I felt we needed him to do something just like putting on the glasses or going to Daily Planet or any of the other things that you're sort of seeing for the first time that you realize becomes his sort of thing, like killing people. I felt if we could go find a way of making it impossible for him, Kobayashi Maru, totally no way out. I felt like that could also make you go, okay, this is why of him not killing ever again. He's basically obliterated his entire people and his culture, and he is responsible for it. And he's just like, I can't. How could I ever kill again? Because I wouldn't know that killing is bad in the first place until I've done it at least once.
So the idea was that he had to kill Zod in order to explain why he doesn't kill
critics.
Later on. All right, let's now go into opinions now that we've gone into the deep dive stuff. Over to you, Andrew.
It's not good. The neck snap, I didn't like it when I first saw it either. I mean, Cavill's screaming ass face too is just
What's up with you in his face?
It's just so intense looking. It looks like he's taking the biggest shit of all time. I don't know. I mean, Cavill's, he's doing what he can, but yeah, the whole like hopeful thing, and then it ends up with Superman feeling really hopeless. Just overly negative and just trying to inject so much darkness into a character that's not inherently like that so much. I know he just said he killed people in the comics before. He killed Zod in the comics before, but still, it's just But then again, maybe for Snyder, he feels like the Phantom Zone thing has just been done like a million fucking times. So, but maybe there should have been another thing where he sends them to another planet, or I don't know. It just feels like the next snap is just so much, and it's so primal. Also, it's extremely primal, and you really feel it. And maybe that's a merit and not a demerit for Snyder, but I don't know. It just puts a bad taste in your mouth, doesn't it? That's
the actual
that
next.
scene.
Oh, I mean, when I saw it, it did feel what you were saying the first time I saw it, where I was just like, okay, it feels like they deliberately wanted to make this as dark as possible in the finale, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Not necessarily because I don't like darkness, but more because I'm just like, did this fit with the story? Was this earned in a way? And I do, again, I appreciate the idea of Superman killing Zod as a way to show him choosing humanity over Krypton. But you don't necessarily need to have him kill Zod in order to do that.
Right.
Going in, do you want to go into more? Or
it doesn't.
I got
Okay,
a few
what
things
Snyder says in that clip to it, it doesn't really read as him choosing anybody over another. Maybe that's Snyder's thematics. But that doesn't read at all, really. It just reads as Superman killing somebody, killing it, and like it doesn't have any kind of other weight to it. I mean, yes, okay, so he kills the last of his kind. That is sad, but I don't know. It's just kind of like it fucks with your sensibilities about this character quite a bit, and it's not earned dramatically either, as you were saying. So yeah.
Right. I feel like this is a great idea for a different story.
Yeah.
Potentially a sequel or something, because of the fact that the movie doesn't really talk about Superman's morality at this point. They don't talk about an opinion about killing or not killing or talking about it at all, and it doesn't really deal with this afterwards either. Like, he doesn't make any sort of declaration afterwards about, like, that's the last time I'll do that in here or in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
You know, if the whole idea was that he has to kill in order to learn not to kill, it wasn't conveyed because we didn't see him learn anything out of it. It was just he killed the guy, he's distraught about it, and that's it. But we don't see how the choice haunts him beyond just crying in Lois's arms.
Right.
You would have to carry that over. Like, if you had the first movie comes out, Superman establishes, hey, like, this is who I am, this is my morality, I don't kill people. Second movie comes out, he's forced into the situation, and then kills Zod. Then you have dramatic weight to it. And this is my similar problem with the portrayal of Batman and Batman v Superman. Everyone was just like, Batman's killing, Batman shouldn't kill people and stuff. And I was just like, okay, I get Snyder's idea was that Batman is killing people, but that shows just he's out of character. However, I didn't get to be introduced to this version of Ben Affleck's Batman until this movie. How are we supposed to know how he was beforehand? Because we never met him beforehand. It would be way more dramatic if you see the change as opposed to expecting the change to make some impact on it, because comics, right? You know, it should be be a change based off of what we see with this version of the characters. So that's one of my big problems with it, is the fact that not necessarily that he kills Zod, but because it doesn't have dramatic weight to it that Snyder was going for, because again, like, that's pretty much not a choice for him. Zod's been an asshole to him since day one. And the second thing is that it doesn't actually carry over into anything. Superman doesn't actually learn from this, or isn't shown to learn anything from this. Maybe he does learn from it, but that's not conveyed at all through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's never brought up again in Batman versus Superman. If anything, Superman kills Zod again in Batman versus Superman because he's Doomsday. He has to at that point.
That's right. Kills him twice.
Again, that would have been more dramatic if Superman is like, I'm not going to kill again, brings that up in Batman vs. Superman, is haunted by it, and then Zod gets resurrected, and Superman not only has to sacrifice himself, but also sacrifice himself and kill again.
Right.
But that's because you've, again, set it up. This is how basically you set up emotion, and it is establishing stuff and then challenging what you've established.
Right.
The problem is that we lack the establishment in order to do that, and so we're kind of just going off of faith that people are going to understand or get that emotional context of it because they know general mythology or comics and stuff like that. And my problem is that that's not really how it works, unfortunately. I wish it did. I wish that it had more of the impact it had on me, but unfortunately, it doesn't, based off those two reasons. So again, my reasons for this are unique because I don't necessarily have a problem with him killing Zod so much as I have a problem with a lot of the execution. So,
Right.
Long way of saying critics again.
Critics.
So
yeah. Yeah. Not dramatized effectively. Not dramatized well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Snyder 5, Critics 9. We have like 5 minutes of movie left, so I don't think Snyder's going to catch up.
Yeah.
Again, we do like this movie, but we agree with a lot of the criticisms, but maybe for different reasons than you would expect.
It's weird. One thing I realized with this movie and my journey with this film is that I can agree with everybody's criticism about it. Like, I agree with almost all of it, really. And I still find it fine. I still like the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know, I would be arguing with somebody that hated the movie and they would say all this shit and be like, well, I agree. And it's like, well, why don't you hate it like I do? It's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. The good parts are still really good to me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between logically knowing when something doesn't add up versus just the emotional impact that movie had on you. And, you know, it clearly did for you to still see these and be like, oh, that doesn't really affect my love for this movie. So I think it's I guess it's a similar thing for me. You know, I'm not as big of a Man of Steel fan as you are, but I think I've come to appreciate its strengths more as time has gone on. And even though I do have these critiques of it, I'm also like appreciative of its existence. You know, of it coming out and kind of trying to reboot the Superman universe. So
yeah, it swung for the fences in that way. And another thing before we move on, the editing is incredible. I think there's a lot of tension. It moves really well, most of it. I mean, some of that is just how the story is going, but I don't know. For me, I think the editor on this film, I don't know his or her name, but I thought the editing, looking back on that, is really, really great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say so. Oh yeah, one last thing on choosing humanity over Krypton. That also would have been cemented if Superman, in his grief, gets not necessarily comforted, but does actually get to talk to the family he saved. Because, again, we didn't get anything from that. As far as we're concerned, they died when he snapped the neck. Like, they don't show up at all. Like, it would have been... They don't have to be... They also don't have to be any comic book character. I'm not saying that the kid is Jimmy Olsen or something. But just the idea of, like, them thanking him for saving them and sort of realizing...
They hug him as he screams or something. I don't know.
Something where it's like, hey, I did this, but it was worth it. Or it was... Again, something that conveys humanity is my choice. These people who I don't even know. These are the people who I've chosen.
One terminology I learned in doing research on this movie is what's known as a Pyrrhic victory. Where have you heard this term before?
Yeah.
So for people that don't know out there, possibly, it's where you've won, but the price that you won at was so great, and that's like, you know, he's won, but he's, you know, killed his last surviving, you know, family member and all that. So I don't know. That's all connected there, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think they were going for that Pyrrhic victory, but because of the fact that Zod is a villain throughout the whole thing, it's kind of difficult to see it that way.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. Yeah, that was not conveyed as well as it could have been.
All right, so wrapping up, we have a few more scenes. We have the scene where Superman destroys the satellite, which has always felt like a weird scene to me. Swanwick comes out and he says, "Are you quote unquote effing stupid?" And I was like, okay, like that's clearly nobody actually talks like that. It sounds like they're just like, we need to PG-13, guys.
Is this so? Oh, he says effing. He doesn't say fucking.
He literally says effing stupid.
Oh, okay.
Like, why doesn't he just say, "Are you stupid?" Then?
Yeah,
like, why does he have
I
to
forgot
say
about that. Yeah, you get one
like,
fuck.
that's weird.
You can say one fuck in PG-13.
Yeah.
But they don't want to fuck in a Superman movie, though. But they want a neck snap. That shows where our fucking sensitivities lie.
Yes. And then we get his assistant, Carrie. This is a weird Easter egg. So Swanwick's assistant is Carrie Ferris. Ferris spelled Farris, which people have connected to Carol Ferris, spelled Ferris. Carol Ferris started out as a love interest to Hal Jordan, a.k.a. the Green Lantern, and then became the villain Star Sapphire. However, they have pretty much nothing in common.
Yeah, it's
like
just
Carol Ferris,
empty Easter egg.
Carol Ferris is in charge of, all these pilots at Ferris Air. Carrie Ferris in this is in the army helping out Swanwick. Like, they're not, one's a pilot or knows a lot of pilots. The other one is just helping out who turns out to be the Martian Manhunter. Like, it's not...
Right.
She didn't need to be Carrie Ferris. She could just have been somebody else, Also, there's like this weird... This is similar to the type of humor that was there with the whole, like, it all goes down after the first kiss, where she's just like, I just think he's kind of hot. I was like, okay. Like...
Yeah.
It weirdly feels like they're trying to be Marvel here, but the humor isn't quite there. So I'm just like, you didn't need that part at all.
They really want that to be in the trailer too. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's true.
They just really want that line in the trailer.
That's a trailer moment. Yeah. Last Snyder versus critics moment, even though it's kind of obvious where who's going to rule out. But there was some criticism with this final flashback where the kid version of Clark wraps the red towel around him like a cape.
Yeah.
And people were just like, there are no other superheroes here. How could he know to do the cape thing? So that was a critique that came out from that moment. I personally don't really care. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like maybe that's, Jesus in that stained glass painting has the red robe on, so maybe he's trying to be Jesus, or maybe he just thought this looked cool, or something like that. Maybe, hell, there's no superheroes, but you still got like Zorro. Like, you still got other characters who have capes in the past. The Three Musketeers,
I think this is people forgetting that he's the fucking Codex and he has the whole entire Kryptonian genetic memory inside of him also. And this is a culture that wears capes for a long part of their history. This is just, I know it sounds like bullshit, but I feel like this is how
but they don't wear capes in this version of Krypton.
Jor-El didn't wear a cape ever?
He's just in the robe.
Oh shit. Well, maybe this doesn't hold up.
Like, it holds up in the comic book version, but I'm looking back and I'm like, the only person we've seen, only Kryptonian who's worn a cape in this version is Clark.
Oh, well, I guess my argument doesn't fucking work. But it comes from, it's part of the Kryptonian suit, at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's
true, yeah.
Again, Snyder wants that visual.
Yeah.
And
it's a great visual, yeah.
And like, I might go with Snyder kind of reluctantly a little bit, but I might go with Snyder on this one just because I think the Codex being inside of him in this version, and that suit is 100% Kryptonian. It's part of their culture. Maybe it's a little hints of his culture popping out in his subconscious in some way. I know I'm going way out of my way to make that work, but it works for me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but also, as I said, like, this world can still have Zorro in it. It can still have the Three Musketeers. And still have people who wore capes in the old days. Like, it's
right.
You don't need to have other superheroes in order to explain the cape. So
they're missing a point where just before this, people didn't like how he just destroyed a satellite too.
Really?
That was also a point of contention.
I feel like that's an automatic win for Snyder.
Yeah, what was it? Like,
that's stupid.
It was spying on people or something. Oh, it was a Wayne satellite. Right?
Well, they do. Oh, I didn't go into those Easter eggs. Yeah, you see a Wayne satellite that he and Zod fight on, and it's the logo from the Nolan films because they haven't decided who Batman was going to be yet. And then you also see a poster that says "Keep calm and call Batman."
Oh, yeah.
And funny enough, that's in a sequence that I think is now retconned into being Gotham, because remember, Gotham was now part of that destruction. It wasn't just the destruction of Metropolis; it was the destruction of Gotham.
I forgot about
now that makes sense. And then, of course, there's LexCorp. There's the LexCorp truck and other Easter eggs in that. But anyway, yeah, the satellite is that he destroys at the end is from the army, and I guess it's supposed to like spy on him, and so he destroys that. But I'm like, well, yeah, because that's the whole point of the scene. The whole point of the scene is that like he doesn't want the U.S. spying on him because he doesn't want to be controlled by the government. He's his own free agent.
It was just part of the rampant Man of Steel hate at the time. But I remember people bringing this up like, oh, he just destroys property like that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Snyder as well on this one.
All right, so Snyder 7, critics 9.
Yeah,
we don't have. If only we had like two or three more things to give to Snyder, but unfortunately we don't. So Snyder 7, critics 9.
It's pretty good for Snyder though. People thought it was
pretty good.
People thought it was gonna be like a landslide for the critics. No, absolutely not.
See, that's why you have to watch all three parts. It's not gonna go the way that you think. let's see. Finally, at the finale, Clark goes to the Daily Planet, and there's a shot of him riding the bike, and you got the tie flapping, and apparently Snyder kept retaking it with Cavill until the tie flapped. He really wanted that in. Maybe it's because he wanted it similar to the cape flapping.
Whoa,
That's my main insight into why he might have wanted that so much. The glasses aren't really explained at the end, but they aren't really explained in any other version either, outside the fact that he just needs to create his own identity, so that's all right. And then, of course, I think Lois's last line is fantastic, where she says, "Welcome to the planet," because obviously there's a double meaning there.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and then he smiles because he is. I think for the first time he feels welcomed. He now can be both. He can be both the Kryptonian side and the human side, and he's with the woman he loves. So it wraps it up pretty well.
Yeah, that was a good sequence. Snyder.
Snyder 7, Critics 9. It was so close.
Yeah.
But we are going to circle back to more Snyder stuff, because next up we got Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. We're going to go over the Ultimate Edition, and we're going to have Zachary Jackson Brown with us for those to get his insight, and maybe he can be a bit of a tiebreaker for us as well, since there's going to be 3 of us instead of 2.
I have a couple Superman nuggets for this, by the way.
Go ahead.
Before we end this entirely, okay, just to get them out there, and add more runtime to this fucking scene, this fucking series. But real quick, in the flashback scene, when Clark Kent is being bullied, I should have said this at the time, but sorry, we're going to go back a little bit. He's reading The Republic by Plato, and in The Republic, Plato describes his quote-unquote perfect society, which mirrors the makeup of Kryptonian society as given here. So there's some connection between the Kryptonian society and the Republic here. Some connections there. Pretty cool.
That is cool.
So moving on from that, another point. According to David S. Goyer, Goyer is the only writer for this, or he's the main writer?
He's the only one who is credited, at least.
Only one credited for Man of Steel, okay? He says that the story's major theme is first contact. He said, I'm not going to do a voice for this one, I guess. We approach Superman as if it weren't a comic book movie, as if it were real. He's an alien. If the world found out he existed, it would be the biggest thing that had ever happened in human history. Just his existence would change the face of the earth forever. Okay. End quote. So basically, they don't really convey that too much. There's that one sequence where Zod's message is going out across to everybody in all the languages. By the way, that is the day the earth stood still influence I could find, because I watched this movie recently, and there's that pretty much that exact sequence. They took that and made that into Zod's part. So it's cool they made it an alien first contact thing, but it doesn't feel like an invasion movie too much, I don't know.
To me, it feels very Independence Day.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does.
Yeah, a lot of it is I think that honestly the destruction, the destruction of Metropolis kind of is very reminiscent of that type of stuff.
I take it back. You're right. I take it back.
Yeah.
It is an invasion movie. They got that right. I'm sorry. Maybe the superhero stuff just makes me forget about that. I don't know.
Get distracted from that.
Yeah, I forget what they were doing there. Okay. What else we got here? So Mark Waid hated the neck snap. Famous comic book writer.
Author of Birthright.
Birthright. Grant Morrison, it says, while he did not react as strongly as Waid, Grant Morrison wasn't too happy about the scene either. So Grant Morrison didn't like it that much either. And what else?
Did they go into why? Why they didn't like it? Because I feel like our reasons are different from most people's reasons. Most people's reasons are Superman doesn't kill. My reason was it doesn't work dramatically.
I didn't include that in my notes. They probably have that out there somewhere. But it says that Mark Waid almost walked out of the theater. So
at what point? Because that's pretty close to the end of the movie.
Yeah, I know, but he would have walked out at that point, so he would have seen the whole thing anyway.
Okay.
The last thing is that this movie had unusually strong DVD and Blu-ray sales. It outperformed the DVD and Blu-ray sales for Captain America: Winter Soldier and Iron Man 3. So that shows something, I guess, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So
A lot of people wanted to re-experience it or experience it for the first time if they didn't catch it in theaters.
maybe a lot of older people want to see Superman because they're more familiar with them, and they don't go to the
Probably,
theater
yeah.
as much, and maybe, I don't know, Superman having more recognizability, at least,
Mhm.
especially at that time before the MCU really kicked off in 2013. I mean, it was going, but nothing like it is today.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
speculating here,
Yeah.
but those are my last little notes, I guess.
Yep. And then I thought I would give you an opportunity to tease something that's coming up, because in part
Oh, yeah.
2, you said you wanted to circle back to Jor-El's monologue about how they will
Oh yeah,
join you in the sun.
right. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Yes.
We are going to do a pitch for this for what we think Man of Steel 2 should be. And that will be in a separate YouTube video. It won't be on the podcast. Well, maybe we could release audio only version as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? It'll be like, we used to release minis, as we call them, Superhouse minis.
Might as well.
We'll
yeah.
release a shorter version. It'll be in addition to, it will not replace an episode. It'll be in addition to a regularly scheduled program. And yeah, and we're, I don't know, how much can we say about it? We're just going to be a cool pitch. We have an idea.
Stay tuned. Yes,
Yeah.
stay tuned for what we're going to pitch on that.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, I guess that's
Nice.
it, huh?
Yes, that is superhero stuff you should know. Let's go into the fan comments. So first one is from Jen Kelly. Jen Kelly says, quote, "Do you guys know what storyline the solo Affleck Batman movie was going to be? Seemed like it might have been the Red Hood arc from, I think, Batman vs. Superman, where Bruce has Jason's Robin attire referring to death in the family. Thanks, gentlemen. Love the show." I think
you.
it was rumored. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was rumored to be Red Hood. However, Joe Manganiello has gone out on record saying that it was going to be Batman versus Deathstroke. It's somewhat inspired by David Fincher's movie The Game, and probably some elements
I've
of
heard
the
that,
comics
yeah.
of Nightfall. Yeah,
Yeah, the
where
game.
Deathstroke sets out to destroy Bruce's life on that set. So it's a full-on Batman versus Deathstroke story, which is unique because Deathstroke hasn't fought Batman in live action before. So that's going to
It
be
sounds
that would have been
awesome.
interesting. It sounds great. So in place of that, we are going to do a deep dive into what we've heard about that, as well as on a bigger level, the history of Batman fighting Deathstroke in the comics. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do that after the Snyder Cut, since that's going to be, it's kind of a what-if situation, and who knows, we might get more information after the Snyder Cut about what that movie could have been.
Snyder
from
needs to do a
Affleck or
Deathstroke movie.
Manganiello.
I mean, Snyder. I
Oh,
don't
he'd
know.
be great for
He'd be
that, yeah.
so good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is from Sparkageddon. I feel like you should read this one.
Okay. Because we're from the South, boy. We talk normal down there.
All right.
Unlike you city folk. Say, bro, I've been writing a fan-made script of my version of Batman, but it's not connected to the DC universe. It's my own universe, and yes, Batman is African-American, and the main villains in the movie are Keelan Wayne?
I guess.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, Keelan Wayne, the Black Knight, Batman, Kayana Evans, Shadowcat, Catwoman, Joshua King Smith, me as Wild Card Joker, and Tori Lynn, Mannequin, Harley Quinn, and it's based off New Orleans, since New Orleans, Louisiana color is black. Since New Orleans color is black and gold in the movie. And the movie starts in 1981, but jumps to 2005 after Hurricane Katrina. Not too much to give out, but I've been working on 2 different drafts and made a third one. The film is dark, gritty, gothic, but more importantly, realistic. Detective and an origin story. I should be finished by April, and if y'all want to read it, I can send y'all this draft on how it looks, cause the way y'all read the scrapped draft gave me better idea for my own version. Love y'all's work. If you're
Thank you, Sparkageddon.
let me just make something clear. If you are African American, I'm trying to use a country white person accent. I'm not
Right,
trying to
right.
culturally appropriate accents. Actually, some people, like I have a coworker from Wisconsin, and I did like a country accent, and he thought I was doing a black accent.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing country white people. So let me just get that clear for the internet.
Yes.
That's what that is. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, okay.
In response to Sparkageddon, I think that sounds very interesting, especially Batman in the world of post-Hurricane Katrina. It would be very interesting.
That'd
so
be
yeah,
cool.
send it over. You know our email, superhousepodcast@gmail.com and stuff. I still owe Axel Martinez a Hulk type of thing. So we've just been bogged down because we got to do a lot of the Snyder stuff. But once the Snyder Cut comes out, I feel like it's a little bit more open season and more flexibility in terms of stuff that we'll cover.
Superman 2, for example.
We'll finally get to Superman 2.
For example.
There's a lot of different episodes I've teased in the past that I've just had to put off because we just wanted to make sure the timing was right with a lot of the Snyder stuff. So, so send that over, Sparkageddon. Last one is from our fan, Walter the Wobot. So, Walter said, quote, I have a lot of issues with Man of Steel, LOL. My main issues stem from the depiction of Clark and his parents. In Superman the movie, we get the sense that his parents were on their way back from church service when they found him. I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. And their Christian values clearly shape the man Clark grows up to be. Contrast that with Man of Steel, where his parents tell him he doesn't owe anybody anything, that he has no responsibility to use his powers responsibly and for the benefits of mankind. Before I go into more, I'm not sure if they deliberately say that. Sure, Martha says you don't owe this world a thing, but that's after he's Superman. The emphasis, it seems, in the movie of Man of Steel was Jonathan Kent saying, like, you have a choice of whether to do that or not, as opposed to telling him, don't do that at all. The main reason why he tells him not to do it at all is to, prevent him from getting taken in by the government. And I think Jonathan mainly sacrifices himself so that Clark can delay and make that his choice to come out of the shadows. Again, this is my interpretation of the movie. Or it's not necessarily me defending this aspect, since, as you know, based off the last episode, I wasn't a big fan of the death of Jonathan Kent. But that's how I interpreted this version. So let's see. Now, in Superman the movie, Clark's father dies as a result of a heart attack, something Clark can do nothing about. So that's what Andrew brought up. In Man of Steel, Clark's father dies as a result of Clark's selfish inaction. He stands by and watches his father die rather than reveal his incredible powers to the world. What kind of person would stand by and allow their own parent to die if it was in their power to prevent it? I wouldn't. I doubt you wouldn't. Agreed. Superman is meant to represent the best of us. He's an icon, a paragon of goodness that we want to live up to emulate. I certainly learned much of my morality as a kid for the Christopher Reeve movies. Now compare the suits. Man of Steel seems to be embarrassed by the classic suit design. They removed the iconic red underwear. They removed the yellow shield from his cape. They darkened and made the bright colors, mute the bright colors. I could go on all day about my issues with Snyder's depiction of these characters, but I would rather end on a positive note. One thing I do actually really like about the movie is the relationship between Cal and his biological father. I think that was the highlight of the movie for me. I also really like that Lois was smart enough to discover Clark's secret, as we talked about earlier. It's a refreshing take on their relationship and allows for different stories to be told and for their relationships to progress in new and exciting ways a lot quicker than is normally the case. So,
yeah,
thank you.
I did.
That was a lot, Walter.
I did see this on. Yeah, this sort of illustrates, and he goes on with a username Kafu Keme. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but I'm assuming that's what it is. And you get to see like a mini version of how the internet was reacting to this movie. When the movie came out. It's interesting. Like this debate still goes on, but yeah, I think I mostly side with what Walter's saying here. Although I'm not, like we talked about in this episode, I'm not as attached to that classic suit, like them changing the yellow shield,
right.
Yellow from the shield and all that. Like, that was a fine choice. But yeah, I mean, all the scenes, like the scenes with his earthly parents, with the Kents, just telling them to like not save people, not be Superman. It's just kind of like puts a wet towel on everything. I don't know.
Right.
It's just
right.
Yeah.
I think the Smallville sequences, they want to play, seems like a lot more with Jonathan being afraid for his son, but they might have overcorrected. Is how I feel about those. Yeah.
And they want, thematically, the Snyder thematics is that they want Jor-El to be like, go save them. And then, the Kents are like, I don't know about saving them. You know what I mean? But I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the idea was to make that more of Clark's choice as opposed to something that his parents tell him to do from when he's young.
Yeah.
Which, kind of makes sense because this whole thing is about him making a choice, especially because he's born without, the purpose that Jor-El or Zod or Lara were given. He's born with freedom.
Right.
So, but yeah, I would say I agree with a lot of what Walter says. Maybe not as strongly on some of them, but I kind of made my opinions clear throughout these last 3 episodes on these different aspects. So anyway, thanks a lot, Walter. Over to you, Andrew, as we wrap up.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. All right. So thank you to our Patreon supporters, which are Shasta, Leom O, Super Inframan, and Douglas P. And our other supporters, Sparkageddon, SDCT Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B., Shamrock Balls, Aaron Willett, Ian H., and Dan Deep.
We might as well add Walter the Wobot.
Walter the Wobot officially being added. Let me type that in right now, actually.
Thank you, Walter.
I'm going to cut around this. And added. Okay. And check us out. Check out the Shasta Army. That's the $1 tier at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. The other tier, other than the $1 tier that gets you the shout out, is the $5 tier, which is a whole other show, as we talked about in this show. This one, of course, as you all know, if you're a regular listener, comes out on Mondays, but we have a whole other one that's even deeper dive that is on our Patreon. So that's $5 a month. Cancel anytime. We have Superhouse merch, also t-shirts and all kinds of shit, mugs and everything at superhousepod.redbubble.com. Please leave us a review in iTunes. That would be super awesome. And then after that, please take out your phone, use your phone to record your voice. You have a voice recorder app. You probably don't even know it, but you do. It comes standard on many phones. But anyway, use that to record us a little something and then send a little something to send the voice audio clip to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. And then we'll add that voice clip to the show. And then I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm also on YouTube, where I do a lot of other stuff that is not necessarily superhero related. It's more of like my interest in Japan, Japanese culture, Japanese language, stuff like that. I have a video. Well, I know that was actually on Superhouse, where they just released an Ultraman trailer, and we're getting a little bit more. We interviewed the original Ultraman in one of our older videos. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, thunderwolflives.com is my other website. And superhero stuff you should know on YouTube, Superhero Stuff Pod, everywhere, all the fucking places. Ben.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Superhero Stuff Pod, as well as Twitter at SuperhousePod. You can also follow me on Instagram at Ben1Rider, as well as the Instagram of my furry son, Alfie the cat, at Alfie Pennyworth Cat.
You're a fucking cat dad now.
My ginger cat with a bow tie.
Do you stan your cat?
He's very dapper.
You're a cat.
See, now you're saying it. I'm his dad, so of course I stand.
Fucking around. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
I'm his number one. Let's see. Website is www.benwanrider.com. I'm trying to get up. I have to reread it, but I think by this time of this recording, I'll have up my Gotham spec for those who are fans of that show, as well as the YouTube, my own YouTube channel, which will have a link in my website, where that has a few of the pitches that I've given out on this podcast, and will at some point have some of my own audio drama type stuff. So at this point, it should have the video of the full pitch for Justice League, the time travel cut. So check that out, especially now that the Snyder cut is coming. You can feel free to listen to that as we wait for the Snyder cut. Other than that, I think that is it. As I said before, we have Batman vs. Superman, Snyder vs. Critics coming up with guest and artist Zachary Jackson Brown coming to join us. So I'm looking forward to that, because that is going to be a hell of a discussion with the Ultimate Edition. That's 3 hours. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. It's probably going to be at least 3 to 4 parts. So we'll see.
I like Man of Steel more than BVS. But whatever.
I think I do too.
Yeah.
We'll go into it. We'll
okay.
go into it.
All right.
So
yeah.
Yes. Anyway, Ben signing off.
Signing off, y'all.